It is a big day. Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. I've got my good friend Coos here, and we've got another guest a lot of you have wanted to hear from. We're going to talk to him right after this word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory today across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you.
This is for Cameron.
What is up, guys, and welcome in. My name is Mountaineer Paul, and you have landed yourself here again at another edition of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. Coos, it's a big day for us personally. It's a milestone in this show and in Hoops from the Hills. We are having none other than the vice president at West Virginia University. I called him the head honcho on Twitter earlier. We were talking about the athletic director at West Virginia University and a guy that has done just an amazing job, and we'll get into that. We're obviously talking about Wren Baker. How we
Hey,
doing, Wren?
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
We're glad to have you.
Yeah, we thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time because we know you're a very busy man. So we couldn't thank you more.
Well, absolutely happy to do so, and Paul was diligent in his efforts to connect with me. So I'm glad that we were able to finally make it happen.
Yeah, well, and people ask me all the time because I get people, I'm pretty successful with it, and people ask all the time, "What's your secret?" And truthfully, it is just on the border of annoying, right? But I mean, when you're a smaller time show like we are, we're just getting up above the 1 to 2,000 mark for me. Coos is up above 5. We've got a show that's a little right there in the 2,000 subscriber range. You don't just get people walking in your door saying, "Hey, we want to be on your show." You have to really go after it, or you're not going to get it.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy to do it and appreciate everything that you guys do to cover the Mountaineers. And as you know, we have such a passionate fan base. That's one of the best assets we have. So anything we can do to continue to grow and develop that, we want to do.
Awesome.
One thing, and I think that leads into one other question I had really quick. And a lot of fans, when I reached out on the social media to try to promote this, and also just kind of get a general idea of what the fans were thinking question wise. Don't know if you had a chance to look at that or not. But a lot of people asked about the entrance and if it will be updated. I know there's a lot of traditional thinking fans that want to keep the band involved, and there's a lot of things people want. Where do you fall with this? Because a lot of people bring up what Virginia Tech does with Enter Sandman, and really want that implemented into what we do. And I'm just curious how you feel about it. And I know there are probably a lot of people you listen to on this, donors, everything. I get it. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, we're trying to make some changes and modernize game day. I mean, I don't know if you guys had a chance to be at the Pitt game or anything, but I told our staff afterwards, in terms of game presentation on a scale from 1 to 10, it was a 9. And I've seen games at every school in the SEC. I've been, almost every school in the Big 12. I mean, that game presentation from start to finish was high level. Our staff did a really, really good job. And you are always balancing trying to do new things and exciting things and creating experience that people know, but also a nod to tradition. I'll give you one example. You can bet every home football game, I'm going to get emails that the music's not loud enough and the music is too loud, that we play too much old music, we play too much new music. But people would probably be surprised at how much we spend and talk about all of those things. And we've walked the stadium, we've listened to the sound. It is too loud in some places, it's not loud enough in others because it's single source. It's all coming out of the video board. So if you have distributed sound, it's more even, but most stadiums don't. And so if that cone is pointed at your section, it's going to be louder than somebody that doesn't have a cone that's sitting, it's hid by screen. But those are mean, that's a problem that everybody has. We had it at North Texas. Every stadium in the country that's single source sound is going to have that. When we do the music, a lot of times pregame, that music is more geared towards our players. They're out there, they're trying to get their mind in the right place. They got certain songs that they request and want to hear. We try and make sure they're clean or edited versions and all that stuff, but we're really trying to get them juiced up and ready. Once we switch into the game, you'll see a clear difference in the type of music that we're playing from pregame to end game, because at that point the players are pretty engaged in what they're doing on the field, and we're really trying to create more of a fan experience. So there is a lot that goes into it. We try to balance doing new things, trying to keep it fresh, trying to keep people engaged, while also making sure that we have a nod to tradition, and that's something that it's probably like negotiating a price on a house. If you negotiate a good price, nobody's happy, but nobody's furious. And so
Right.
I think it would be impossible for ever 60,000 people to leave there and all agree on
Right.
something like that. But we do we spend a lot of time trying to walk that, and I think you probably have noticed some changes this year, and you'll continue to notice us tweak some things, but also recognize that there are certain traditions that people come to expect and want to do.
Yeah.
One thing I can promise you is we will not change singing country roads after a win. That I would be fired the next day, so that will never happen.
Yeah. The great answer. I was at the Pitt game, and I don't know. Paul probably saw it. Ren, I don't know if you did or not, but I actually tweeted out something about the in-game experience and how it had improved. I noticed it myself, and I I gave you a nod because 3 different times during the game I heard pro wrestling theme songs playing
So
over that
great.
loudspeaker. I heard Stone Cold. I heard oh shoot,
The NWO theme.
the NWO theme, and then Billy Gunn and Road
Oh
Dogg
yeah,
from
yeah.
DX. All 3 of those. Now, was Wren Baker involved in that decision, or does the credit need to go to Big Daddy Sean Mariner, because I think he's trying to get credit for that too? So who deserves that
Yeah,
credit?
no, I think what I've tried to do is give our staff freedom to run with some things, and so you've seen them be a little more aggressive in a variety
Mhm.
of ways. Um, but Sean is responsible, I think, for that. I'm not the only pro wrestling fan here. Now, maybe them knowing my pro wrestling love helped get that across the finish line, but that's not one that originated with me and Sean.
Cool.
We have a lot of talented people on our staff, and there were things about the game day that I knew about, but the video from Rashid right before
Oh,
kickoff,
that's a home
I,
run.
I did not know about
So
that.
good.
I saw that video when it was out there, and I thought it was really really good. And so I think what I've tried to do is give more resources to our folks and encourage them to think outside the box and to do things differently. And and that's probably a lot of the role that I had. There was a song that played in between the third and fourth quarter that I had to order the code red on that one because no one else felt comfortable that they could pull that trigger. But most of that other game presentation, the details of it and what came from our staff, and which is why I made sure to tell our senior staff to share with them how proud I was of them, because they did a really really good job.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thanks. Awesome. Speaking of the third and fourth quarter, there are some fans on Twitter or X, whatever it is, who would like to see that continue for every game, not just the Pitt game. What are your thoughts to that?
Yeah, I don't think we would necessarily do that. I just felt like we'd actually played it during the Duquesne game,
Hmm.
and that game we're playing an FCS team. We had a lengthy weather delay. We weren't playing well going into the weather delay. We had a very dedicated group of fans that stuck it out with us and were very engaged in that game in the second half. And so I felt like we needed to reward them with something, and and so and also get them juiced up for the next week. And so I went over and said, hey, I think maybe in this fourth quarter we might ought to play it and get people excited. And then the backyard brawl. I'm all for sportsmanship. I want us to be known as a classy fan base. I said hello every time I saw a Pitt fan that day, and I walked tailgate stuff. I said, I hope you have a great day. Hope everything goes fun. I hope it's fun. You have a great experience, except for on that scoreboard. But I want us to have that. But I just felt like given everything, it's been a hard few months for Mountaineer Nation. We've been through a lot.
Yeah.
Campus has been through a lot. And so I just felt like the moment felt right to do that. It's not something that I would do every week. But I also I probably had 500 messages and emails and stuff from people saying things. I did have a few that didn't think we should do that. But what I told them was, you were going to hear that chant whether we played that song or not. I heard that chant a million times that day. And
Yeah.
so I don't think we introduced anything that hadn't
No.
already been said. Just the time, score, and situation in that moment, it just felt right. So that's why we did that.
Awesome. I love that these keep segueing into other questions that we have. But speaking of Pitt, I think a lot of people are questioning, this game goes away in a couple of years for 4 years. And you look at that Alabama game, and Kuz and I were talking, you maybe had hinted at something like this in an interview before. Actually, Kuz brought this up to me. And the SEC is going to go probably to a 9-game conference schedule. Maybe that's something you look at in the future. Is Pitt the game that replaces Alabama, or is there just a lot more into it than that? Obviously, what Pitt is doing comes into play as well. But I think a lot of people don't want this thing to go away in a couple of years, and for good reason. And be remiss if you could throw Marshall in there as well as a potential future Group of 5 school, because you mentioned the trio of Group of 5, Power 5, and FCS. So just want to throw that in there too.
Yeah. And listen, I'll get stopped a lot of times walking tailgates, and people have different opinions. And so there are some people that wish that, with those 3 non-conference games every year, we could play Penn State, Virginia Tech, and Pitt. And would those games sell very well? Yeah, we would sell all of those games out. But you're balancing a lot of different things and trying to have a successful football program, trying to come out of non-conference pretty healthy, trying to build confidence where you need to build confidence. A very difficult conference schedule that's 9 games when some schools only have 8. So there's a lot of things that you're balancing and weighing. If I could wave a magic wand, we would play Pitt every year, and I think that game. I think fans of both institutions, the region, our state, the city of Pittsburgh, like, benefits from that game being played, and so I would love to see it played. I believe after the hiatus that's coming up, I can't remember if there's 4 or 6 games that are back on the schedule then. And Heather and I had a conversation leading up to the backyard brawl, and we actually were at a meeting in Washington D.C. last week, and we both reaffirmed it. We want to extend that series even more. And so
Awesome.
I don't know if that's another 4 games, another 6 games, whatever, but we would extend it as long as they wanted to extend it, and we would do the same for basketball. And so she indicated that there's interest in keeping both of those going as well. But I think beyond that Power 5 game, I've been pretty clear that I would like to have a Group of 5 and an FCS. I know some fans don't like the FCS game, but the reality is, so when you start with 9 conference games, that means every other year you have 5 road conference games, and so you're trying to get to 7 home games, and the math becomes problematic. And it's not like everybody lines up and says, hey, West Virginia, we want you to have the schedule you want. So tell us what your needs are, and we'll schedule around you. There's 130 schools plus however many FCSs, and they're all trying to do their schedules, and they're all doing them independently of each other. There's no master scheduler in college football. And so, it is a little bit problematic. When it comes to the SEC, if they were to go to 9 conference games, and they reached out to us to try to change that Alabama series. I think we would be open to that, but we'd have to look and see who else was going to be open due to that, to them going to 9 games, right? So you would,
Right.
and there's a gentleman out there who used to work for ESPN. He did all the football scheduling for ESPN. His name is Dave, but Dave, he subscribed to the website. He's got a matrix everybody schedules, and he knows, he talks to people nonstop about this, so he actually can tell you, well, so and so is trying to get out of this game, so they might be open on that date, because you're not just looking for a year, you got to know the date, right? Like
Right.
if you got a
Yeah.
week 3 opening, somebody being open in week 5 doesn't do you any good, and you
Mm.
can't just move games around because everybody else is full too, and scheduling's done out 6, 8, 10 years in a row sometimes. So it is a very nuanced, very complicated. People probably be surprised how much time we spend looking at all the options, and so much that depends on what's out there. But if we had a chance to change from Alabama to a regional rival, like Virginia Tech or Pitt or Penn State, and they had an opening, I think that's something we would do, because I think just the nature of conferences being more geographically spread out. I think if in non-conference you can stay closer together, for both your fans and your team, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Has there been any discussion about Marshall ever being on the schedule
Yeah,
again?
we've talked about it. I think so. Christian is a friend of mine. We go way back. I don't think we would ever want to play down in Huntington, and part of that is not any slight to Huntington. I think that has more to do with, we're really trying to fight to have at least 7 home games, and we would like to have years where we have 8. I think those home games are critical. I mean, I would love to see a financial report on what was brought into this town the week um, of the backyard brawl, but
Mhm.
it had to have been, I mean, way over $1 million in total revenue that was brought into Morgantown that day. So, I think those game days are important. They're important for our businesses. They're important for our community. It's important just for people to come in and see the university when the enrollment demographics are like they are, and there's declining number of students. We need reasons to get people here and see how great this town is, and this campus and the state. And so I think for all of those reasons, we would want to play at home. But Christians kind of indicated that wouldn't be a non-starter for them. That might be something they would
Mm.
consider. So could that happen at some point? Yes. We're scheduled out several years, and the way that it works, like, you want to take, like, the Power Five opponents, getting that mix up is the most important. The least important is the FCS, because you can always find an FCS that'll take your date, and then those Group of Five games are kind of in the middle somewhere. And so it's, you're trying to set those up kind of in a sequential order there. And so I think we're a little bit away from looking for an additional Group of Five opponents, but I don't have a stance of, hey, we'll never play Marshall. I want to do what's right for our program first, but then what's right for the state.
Right.
So can I ask you? You weren't here in the last, uh, with the last athletic director, but do you know what the problem was there? Some people say that Marshall wanted a, 1-for-1. Some people say that W said no, we want a 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 or whatever it was. Then have you heard exactly what the issue was with getting them on the schedule? Because I know, it happened for a long time. Obviously, we went 12-0. Proud to say that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we've heard so many different things. I'd like to just clear the air so I can tell the Marshall guys, like, no or yes, you're right about that.
There's been a bunch of changes, coaching, AD, president, on both sides. I think everybody's all new. So I don't know the
Okay.
history. Um, I think anytime you have an in-state rival and one of those institutions has a lot higher resource than the other, it's going to create some friction. And it, I think for me, having spent time at the Group of Five level, and spent time in a conference with Marshall, I have a ton of respect for Marshall, the coaches there, the leadership there. But I also know that we have to do what's best for WVU first and foremost. And so, Yeah, I haven't probably spent a lot of time trying to figure out all of the things that happened in days gone by between the two institutions. But I know that there's very good relationships and a healthy respect there now. Um, President Gee is very close with their president. Christian and I had a friendship for a long time, and so I don't. Will it happen? I don't know, but would there be consideration? I think there's nothing that would keep us from considering that.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, I don't have anything else, Paul. And I know Wren. I know he's probably got a busy schedule, busy day ahead. Did you have any? I mean, before we go, do you have any other questions?
One last thing, man. How about the job Neil and those guys have done the first 4 games of the year? I think at best, a lot of people, the Sick'em 365 guys even said, which I know you know those guys, and we've had those guys on, said, most people thought at best 2-2. And they're 3-1 coming out of that. And I think they got a real shot to go TCU and pull that thing off this week. And then you look at it after the bye, you got Houston on a Thursday, and it really starts to set up with Oklahoma State and teams that aren't playing so well. Not that they can't win any game on any given day, but I'm telling you, personally, I have a good feeling about this season. I think Neil's really going to make a lot of believers, including me, who was not the most in on Neil coming into this year, fairly. Man, I'm so proud of how he's called games, the way he's called games. I don't think I'd be remiss to get you off here before I said that.
Yeah, I've said this multiple times, but there's a lot that's done in our football program that's done very, very well, and people don't get a chance to get a window into that. Most people's window is those 12 Saturdays, and I get that. But when I came here, one of the first things I did was spend a lot of time over there at football, visit with all the staff one on one with nobody else in the room under the cloak of confidentiality, and had a chance to share. And I walked away impressed with a lot of things that we do. Now we know that we have to win, and it's been a rough couple of years in terms of the tally on the left column versus the right column, and you can sit around and make excuses for that, but I think Coach Brown has done a really good job of kind of owning it and understanding what the expectations are and what he's had to do. I think he's coached with confidence and courage, and hasn't operated in fear. And and I've said all along, like, my history only starts here really in January, but I have felt like the young people in the team, the student athletes, had a really strong bond and camaraderie, and it pulled together. We were able to win some battles in recruiting, and we were able to retain some players that probably the year before we wouldn't be able to retain because of the NIL opportunities. And so I was hopeful coming into the year. Obviously, we're only a third of the way through the year, so it's not like we can declare anything a success or not success. But up to this point, I think the team's done a really good job. They've competed. We probably haven't gotten a lot of style points, but that doesn't matter as long as you have a tally in the win column. And they're finding ways to win. I think that's a big credit to them. And I do think being picked 14th was a rallying point. I said that this summer I was asked about it, and I said, I always like for people to slight me. I've operated best in life when people were doubting me. There's something about proving people wrong that gives you a little extra motivation. And so I think they're playing well right now. These 2 road games, sports is funny. You always feel like, well, if we can win these games, then maybe we're playing with house money. But every win just puts more pressure on the next game because you get greedy and you just want to want to win them all. But this is these 2 road games are important. TCU is obviously really good, and they've got a really good record at home. But we need to go there and play as well as we can, and then get rested up, get our guys that are banged up healthy, and get ready to go to Houston after the bye. But I'm excited, and I will say this: weather has affected 2 of our home games, but man, our crowd has been so engaged. Even the Duquesne game when it wasn't full. The people that were there, they were engaged. And this last week against Texas Tech, I mean, it was cold out there and rainy. I know it gets colder here, but with that first cold Saturday when the rain is blowing and maybe you weren't prepared for it, is always that's
Yes.
kind of tough conditions. And the crowd, I mean, they helped win that game on that last drive. They were such a factor. And so you know, I'm hopeful. I'm very excited about where we are right now. I think our coaches and certainly Coach Brown has done a really good job up to this point. But we got a long season ahead of us, and we just got to keep plugging away, keep chopping wood, and keep working at it. And I think we got a chance to do something special.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ren. We really appreciate you for coming on. It's been an excellent conversation and it means a lot to us.
Yeah, appreciate you guys for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for everything you've done for Mountaineer Nation, for the program, for the state since you've been here. I know you kind of walked into a hornet's nest, but you've handled it well. And Mountaineer Nation, I've had several people comment to me, "Hey, make sure he knows that we appreciate the job he's done." So I want to make sure that the fan base is behind you, man, and we appreciate everything you've done and everything you've had to deal with and how you've handled it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I've said this a couple of times. The fans have stopped me, and people have been so great to me. But people have been incredible to my family. So I moved a wife and 2 daughters. I came in January; they came in June. But I've not come home to tears one time. They've been so happy here, and that's because the way
awesome.
that people have embraced them and treated them, and says a lot about the state, a lot about the culture here, and we couldn't be happier being here, and we're so appreciative of the way that people have embraced us. And even though it's only been a few months, we certainly feel like West Virginians, and we're excited about the future.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Ren. All right, guys. As you see, we've had Wren Baker on. It's been an excellent conversation. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Don't forget, guys, Kuz's Corner. Do not forget to subscribe. That's Kuz's channel. Our shared basketball channel, Hoops from the Hills. We thank you for stopping in. And obviously, last but not least, Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. All you guys, we thank you guys for all the continued support. Thanks to Wren Baker for coming on. Kuz, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for
This
having
has
me,
been
brother.
another edition of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. This episode is over, and we are out.
Q Country Roads.
This is for Cameron. Tim Cal.